love sweet God magnet. Love just until I told you grab it.
Hey! Was that your attempt to do the Shigaraki smile?
Yeah.
Hey, welcome to Lobster Magnets Review the channel. I'm going to probably keep that thing in the video. Shigaraki smile, turn it into something on fucking Facebook and, make it like trend in Japan or some bullshit. So, Gorogregoro, what did you think? This is the season finale of season 2 of My Hero Academia. My Hero Academia has exploded, and it adapted one of my favorite chapters of the series. And how do you think it's stacked up?
This last episode was fantastic.
Also, just as a note, we didn't, because of stupid bullshit, I blame Greg. It was all Greg's fault. We watched, but we didn't review last week's episode. So we'll cover the fight before. But let's talk about the fresh shit before we go back to episode 24.
Oh my god. Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah. This is way better than the last episode. To be honest, for me.
Okay, so go on. Why do you think it was? I mean, I of course like very happy. I think it was a really important development, and I think I was pleased. My only complaint is that when Shigaraki does the Shigaraki smile, it wasn't quite as detailed as it was in the manga. But then again, that kind of stuff is difficult to translate into animation, and it still worked well as well. So why was this episode so good for you?
Just because it really focused on the villain and the motivations behind the villain instead of like Deku for like a change. I think it really fleshed out Shigaraki's character like tenfold with this episode.
Yeah, you see why I like that chapter, and it was like one of my favorite chapters of the series so far, right?
Yeah, I was surprised how much I liked it after you talked about it so much with me. Like, I didn't feel like this, I've seen so many things about it and like heard so many things about it. Like all the spoilers didn't really affect like my opinion of it. So
it was still nice to see it like play out naturally, to see him come to that conclusion, because you got this guy who's like, why am I a terrible villain? Why is nothing working for me? I've got this stupid schoolgirl, this fucking emo guy, and they all like love Stain. Why is nothing working?
And it's cool because he's struggling within himself to like grow as a villain. Essentially, he's like, okay, deep down, I probably know like I gotta take these guys into my, into my group in order to grow stronger as a villain character. But just something's really bugging me about like, why do they follow Stain? Why didn't they follow me? It's just frustrating. And
yeah,
it's like he's kind of like he's got this huge ego about him, and it's sort of like it's getting in the way of like him actually growing as a villain, I guess.
Yeah, and that's why I think all My Hero Academia has the potential. I love the fact that we've got the parallels of All Might and One for All, or All for One, in the fact that you're getting Deku's origin story, but you're also getting Tomoe Shigaraki's villain origin story, which obviously isn't as prominent. You only get little pieces of it, but it is a really smart thing. It's basically like if Zabuza was like a villain who lasted throughout the entire Naruto saga.
Yeah, but I would compare it with like Toby, to be honest. Like Toby's character got fleshed out like ton more than someone like Zabuza.
Well, true, but the whole point is he's the first villain that we're introduced to, and usually the first villain is discarded, and he does a terrible job of being a villain. He comes in, it's and Midoriya even points that out. Stain didn't run away or quit when the shit was down on him. He stayed through and followed through with his convictions. You just ran away. Game over, man.
Yeah, that's true. The whole scene is so intense. Like the way he was grabbing Medora's throat, and he's like, you know, if I kill you, you know, these people won't even react in time. I'll probably kill like 20 or 30 or more, you know, because they're so disillusioned by this sense of like, oh, there'll be justice if something bad happens. You know, All Might will come and save them. Like that kind of like ideology is very similar in when I think about it, like in terms of like the Joker. In some ways, it's like the Joker believes that, you know, is like in chaos and like.
Well, the interesting thing is like, you know, what the Joker has a great ideology, and that's how he like. Because like, if you're a really good villain, you need to get people to follow you, because the really great villains are charismatic figures. You know, the Joker in The Dark Knight has like a billion underlings who are all willing. Because you know, he's doing like really complicated shit that requires a lot of fucking planning.
That's true.
You know, as much as he like, ooh, chaos, anarchy, this is the true evilness of people. You know, all of his plans are like super fucking complicated. We need to kidnap these two people. We need to like hit them up with like fire drums. We also have to have this other shit in another place, and we got to do all this other crap.
Yeah, like show like movies of like, you know.
I have to get the DNA of like these three people who are I'm gonna target and put them on playing cards so the fucking, you know, Gotham police force understands it.
Yeah.
He's doing like all this fucking complicated shit. And he needs like underlings, and just like how Tomohiro Shigaraki does, and now he's sort of getting them. One thing I'm kind of curious to hear what you think about is, what do you think of Dabi and Toga?
Do you mean his new recruits?
Yeah. Because, like, well, I'm curious. What are your first impressions of them? Because I want to lay some knowledge on you.
I don't know. It's just they're kind of like blank slates right now to me. It's just I don't see that much into them right now. They just seem like kind of semi-interesting character designs right now.
Yeah, that's pretty much what they are. I think they're like both really fucking good character designs. They're like great character designs, but they're not quite great characters yet.
Yeah.
Even in the manga, like Toga gets some moments to sort of flesh her out, but nothing too incredible. Nothing super amazing. And like Dabi, I think, is like a brilliant fucking character design, but he's not a great character.
Yeah, like so far I don't see anything that really strikes out to me in terms of like oh, that's a, you know, they're cool characters. It's a cool, you know,
they're great characters. They're fucking great characters. Don't tell me Dabi isn't a great character design. It's like the sort of like
they're great character designs, but I'm saying like the, you know, they're like the deeper level of like their character. I'm not like particularly that interested in it yet.
Yeah, that is true.
But you know, that might change. But you know, sometimes I mean, even that though, it might not even matter. Like as long as Shigaraki uses them in an interesting way, I guess.
Yeah, well, you'll see how their roles eventually play out in season 3, which was announced.
Yeah, that's I mean, I figured obviously they're going to come out with a season 3 after, you know, the second season was so successful. Like it took the world by storm, I feel like, didn't it?
Yeah, I think it definitely took the anime world by storm. So the Boku no Hero Academia fandom is really strong. I don't see how there couldn't be a season 3. Although, you know, it's kind of funny. You know, the Attack on Titan was like mega hit, and it took forever to get a season 2. But yeah, it's nice to know season 3 is confirmed. It's coming down. You know, why wouldn't you want to keep on riding this hype train? And it seems to be working out perfectly in the sense that like we're getting, you know, a reasonable amount of content, and there's still room for the manga to breathe, so it doesn't feel like it's like, you know, like 10 chapters ahead of it. Because apparently when Dragon Ball Z was in its hype, like the manga was like 10 chapters ahead of the anime. So they would slow things down just to like, you know, squeeze as much material as they could out of the episodes.
Oh God, no wonder. Like during the Frieza saga, especially.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Oh my god, that was like a nightmare to watch through all the fucking power ups and.
Because they were animating like one chapter or like 16 pages per fucking episode.
Well, you know,
But we're not getting. Although there was technically a little bit of filler in this. Like technically, the manga material ends after Tomura, walks away from Deku, and he says like, oh, I don't know about what All for One is planning, and then all the stuff with him in the police report. I mean, it was fine. I didn't mind it. We got all the really good stuff, and it was a good way to like pad the episode and sort of like have a nice little end note.
yeah, I was wondering also about All Might's relationship to that police officer.
It's funny. That police officer is just like average McAverageton. Like, as far as we know, he doesn't have a quirk, and he's just unique because of how average he is. He's just All Might's buddy in the police. Although, in the My Hero Academia Illegals manga, they do have like a chapter where they show how they became friends and how they met each other.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I do like the little My Hero Academia legal manga because it's like adding all these cute little fun details that you don't necessarily need in the main story. But it's really nice. It's like a spin-off that's done much better than like most spin-offs are in that fucking world. Since I'm not a huge fan of like the convoluted mess that is the fucking Boruto spin-off.
Yeah. This, I mean, this whole episode, most of it, for the most part, felt very sincere, like in terms of like the characters' motivations and like Shurmura. God, I'm fucking up his name, aren't I?
Tomura Shigaraki.
Shigaraki. Like how at first he was like at odds with those guys because they were following Stain. He's just like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna attack you, and then the Void guy like getting in the way. He's like, we have to team up with them, and
it is so funny. I like the Void guy's like, he's dapperly dressed. He's got like a very versatile quirk, and why isn't he the leader? Why is he like putting up with villain man baby?
Yeah. That's another curious thing. He's kind of like the butler villain, honestly.
But I do love Tomo Shigaraki's man babiness. I think it's like a great. What's like the fact that he's so infantile and he's like trying to piece together what makes it to become a good villain. It's a really fascinating arc. It's something like you don't really see a lot in like shonen anything or even in traditional superhero stories.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
And it feels very sincere. Like it feels like a sincere like look on, what this kind of character would do, and how he would react to things.
Yeah, and so you see the little kids and they're like wearing like hero killer masks, and he's like so fucking pissed off by it.
Yeah,
and I also loved his like conviction where it's like we like talks to Deku to like try and figure out what does he have that I don't, and the fact that whatchamacallit, he's like, you're gonna like follow me in my little interview, or else, well, I could stop you. Well, I could kill 30 people.
Exactly. So, and then, the whole thing with, I guess to bring it back to what you were talking about before with All Might and the cop, like, that whole camaraderie felt like very sincere too to me as well in the episode. I feel it's kind of cool. Like All Might has like this average friend in the
police.
Yeah,
who just like, who knows? Maybe I'll send you that chapter of My Hero Academia Illegals. It's really cute when they meet up. I liked it a lot. Here's an interesting question though. Why did you like this episode better than the one we saw previously? Than the big Bakugo and All Might and Midora fight.
Okay, that fight. To me, I feel like All Might's character was. He was like punching the shit out of their guts and like I was afraid for those children. Like,
you thought he was.
How could those children like withstand those punches? He's literally beating the shit out of children with brute strength. While the other teachers are not using their brute strength, they're using their regular the weird, wacky quirks to.
Well, that's his quirk, though. The brute strength. That's what he does. He hits things really hard, or he hits the air so hard that he like creates a shockwave. That's what, that's what his fucking quirk is.
Yeah, but like, I guess it just feels so much more visceral and like wrong to like hit children like that.
Do you think it's like the equivalent of like watching Superman just like beat the shit out of Superboy or Robin?
Yes, exactly.
It's just like this arc of like Superman. I'm gonna train you, Robin. This is how you defeat a metahuman. Bring it on, Superman. I've got this Kryptonian laced bracelets to weaken my power, and he's just like still smashing like fucking Robin into a fucking crater.
And like Superman thinking to himself, like, I gotta do this in order to develop them as, strong heroes. I gotta beat the ever living shit out of them to do that. It just felt a little bit like awkward to me. Like the whole situation in general. I kind of wish like it was like the rules about this thing were a little bit more realistic, I guess.
It's supposed to make them struggle. It's supposed to push them to their limits, and it did. Bakugo, Midora and Bakugo's relationship improved a little bit as they like did their clever team up move, and Deku uses his fucking hand grenade arm against All Might.
I guess what I would maybe have liked to see, like All Might, he wouldn't try and physically harm them, like punch him like in the face or like in the guts or whatever. He would just like, I don't know, he would try and like, karate chop them in the back or something like that to like knock them unconscious.
I guess your argument is that like All Might is such a symbol of good and peace that you don't like to even see him pretend to be like villain.
Yeah, exactly. I guess it just feels like so anti All Might to see him like just kicking the ever living shit out of children with like almost no mercy, because he's like
Bakugo so hard that he's like vomiting up spit and he like looks like he's gonna puke himself out.
Yeah.
Did you love the brutality of it? Oh my god! Although I can understand that. Like you could almost say the anime did too good of a job, because All Might should be the symbol of hope and peace, and like he's basically eating the shit out of children. But these are exceptional children. They're children with explodey hands, and his little protege. Good old.
Sure. I mean, the whole team up with Bakugo and Deku is great. Like them working together to formulate a plan against All Might is fantastic. I think that's the main thing that bothered me about that whole
that whole episode.
It just felt a little bit
still
off.
Significantly better than the other fights, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. But like you think about like what would be the equivalent of like some of the other fights, like you think of like Sniper Guy, he would actually shoot some of the children in the arms and legs.
Shoot him in the arms and legs.
Yeah. Like none of those fights even came close to like how visceral like All Might's fight was.
And it felt like out of all the well, I don't know, the one thing I could argue is like the Sound Mike guy versus like Ear Girl. He made her ears bleed.
Okay.
His was kind of sadistic.
Yeah, it kind of was, but like still that was like only one injury, while All Might was like breaking like people's ribs and like you see after the fight, like Bakugo and Deku are like out on like the medical stretchers and stuff, like all their bones were probably broken afterwards.
Completely brutalized.
It's just the nature of All Might's quirk. He's just like, he can't really go all out and like expect to not like brutally almost murder these
Well, he
children.
was supposedly handicapped. We know he's handicapped because of his limit, and we also know he's handicapped because he had those weights on. But yeah, that was nature. It was basically Superman beating the shit out of children. Now I just want to see fan art of like Superman trying to train Robin, and then just like Batman looking horrified as like Robin can't walk and he's like paralyzed as he's like.
Yeah.
So what score would you give episode 24 if you had to give it?
I give it a. I mean, yeah, that thing with All Might beating up children was basically the big thing about it, and it felt a little bit. It felt really awkward for me. But I love the camaraderie with Deku and Bakugo, and them formulating a plan to deal with him. Just the whole situation in general just felt very out of place.
So give a number though, and then I have an interesting thing I want to ask you.
Okay. I'd say 7.5.
Oh wow! I think it was definitely a 9 episode. Although I do think your argument is interesting though, that like seeing the symbol of peace brutalize children is dramatic. So, well, here's my question though. What do you think Bakugo and Deku's relationship is more like? Do you think it's a Naruto Sasuke, or do you think it's a Vegeta Vegeta Goku?
Vegeta Goku.
Because I was like, it was interesting. Like, I was, of course, I made my Bakugo video, which you saw. I'm pleased with.
Yeah.
And like, so I've getting some like comments, and people are saying like, oh, it's left. They're more like Vegeta and Goku, less than Sasuke and Naruto. And I guess I could sort of see like Bakugo as a Vegeta. I guess the only problem though is that like Bakugo didn't start out as like a villain, although you could say his earlier personality is like completely dickish and villainous, and his arc is like he's been smoothing out and becoming less dickish.
Yeah. That's interesting. I haven't seen that much Dragon Ball Z like past the Frieza arc, to be honest.
You saw enough to get an idea of like Vegeta's dynamic with Goku.
Yeah, I understand Vegeta, was probably absurdly, jealous of like Goku's power, and he wanted to achieve, he thought he was the best.
Well, I'll say this as much is that like I don't know, if you ever get bored, you should go on like YouTube and look up like the Dragon Ball Super like English dub. I mean, Dragon Ball Super isn't a great show. It's kind of like has many of the problems that most Toei animation projects like One Piece and the original Dragon Ball and many other things that they tackle. Just kind of stretched out and poor in places, but like, oh man, that English dub like elevates it so much better than the Japanese dub, and you get a really interesting insight into Goku and Vegeta's continuing relationship and their sort of like rivalry, and how Vegeta always wants to one up Goku, and how he's more practical than Goku's stupidness, and his perpetual frustrating about feeling how he's mentally superior, so why can't he like best him? And how they like want to fight other people to like prove their superiority to each other.
Yeah,
but I guess you could say that like the relationship is similar. Is that like Vegeta's an asshole and Bakugo is an asshole?
Yeah, I mean, you can also sort of say the same thing about Sasuke sometimes, but like Sasuke is a little bit more subtle,
Well, he did more emo brooding. Like
Yeah.
Sasuke was never angry, except for like when he was like on his vengeance quest. He was just sort of like,
And
I'm gonna go.
Sasuke was jealous of Naruto at some point, like when Naruto had the Rasengan and Sasuke didn't have the curse sealed yet, Like,
Yeah, or the Cursed Seal level 2, where he gets those stupid wings.
yeah,
Yeah, there was that point where he was like jealous of the Razigan. I mean, well, yeah. So
yeah,
basically, Sasuke still like feels like he's still like a metric fuck ton like higher than Naruto. Like, Naruto spends 3 years with Jiraiya, and all he gets is like a big Razigan and the fucking Kyuubi transformation when he can't even control. Sasuke spends like 3 years with Orochimaru, and he can kick everyone's ass. He shoots fucking lightning and has his wing powers, and he's got all these fucking fire jutsus, and he can use snakes and shit, and he gets the higher end of that trade.
yeah. You know what? I'd say, now that I think about it more, it probably is more like Vegeta and Goku, because just how in the beginning, it's not. I mean, Vegeta, Goku, and I mean, Vegeta will brag about his his higher.
Oh, you're breaking up again.
Oh fuck.
Oh, you still there?
Yep, I'm still here.
All right. So, well, now you're talking, and it's kind of going okay. But
I'll try
so go
closing
on.
some things. All right. So, as I was saying, Vegeta, he brags about his power level. Sasuke doesn't really brag about it. He's like obsessed with being like, a much better, Saiyan than Goku is. Kind of like similar to like how Bakugo's obsessed with being a better hero than Deku is.
But Bakugo is like, well, yeah, it is, and Vegeta. Although the difference though is that like Bakugo is better than Deku, at least from a technical perspective. Although eventually Deku eventually starts to eclipse Bakugo, and that just pisses him off. Versus Vegeta, who was like objectively better than Goku when he was first introduced, and like Goku has to like half kill himself just to like be able to take out Vegeta.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird comparing them. I honestly think it's definitely a mixture of both those relationships: Sasuke, Naruto, and Vegeta, Goku. But yeah, I guess I would lean more towards Vegeta, Goku, because like eventually Bakugo like has to, team up with Goku, and he does so reluctantly. While Sasuke,
True.
He was reluctant a little bit with Naruto, but like they were quick about it to team up.
Yeah, well, that deserves a video in and of itself. The thing that sucked about like Sasuke teaming up with Naruto was that like Naruto needed to like fight him as a villain first before they like have their reconciliation, instead of like having Sasuke like decide, I'm gonna become a good guy. And then they like have their reconciliation, and Naruto's like, "Yeah, it's so great to have you back, despite all the shit you did. Yay!" He should have been like a villain of Toby Obito, and then they fought a little bit, and then Naruto somehow convinces him to like join their side. I thought that was handled really poorly.
This is interesting. Yeah, maybe there could have been like a little side. It could have been this like a crazy side fight while Sasuke Naruto battle, like they somehow stall Toby off somehow.
Maybe Sasuke needed to be a villain. He needed to fight some of the cages or someone else, and then like eventually like Naruto wins him over, and then they join forces, and then that would have been like cathartic. Versus just like, I'm a good guy now. I haven't really done anything to redeem myself. I'm just like showed up and decided to be good.
Yeah.
Like, fuck you. You didn't earn this. But all right, so let's go back to the episode 25 though. So are you?
That was a huge sidetrack.
Yeah, well, no, as far as I'm concerned, that's our discussion about episode 24. This is a double review, two episode reviews in one handy dandy package.
Oh yeah, okay.
So what would you rate episode 25, given the fact that like it was a great villain introduction? Well, it was a great in terms of fleshing up Tomura Shigaraki and his overall arc. And now do you see why I made that whole my first video essay on him, and I like his arc so much.
Yeah, this was a 10 for me. This episode, I was very pleased with it, even though it didn't have any crazy fight scenes. Like, it was a great way to end the season and, develop like this anti-Deku character so well.
Yeah, yeah. I'm really glad. I thought that in retrospect, this was probably the perfect episode. I'm glad that they went this far, and this was like the perfect way to end the season. Because it gives Tomura a great arc along with Deku's. Because Deku obviously took big strides, and it's interesting. Some people have done videos talking about how, like, if you watch all the openings of My Hero Academia, they kind of tell their own story. Like in the first opening, like Midoriya is looking at All Might, and he's like this incredible, impossible symbol that he could never achieve, and he's like looking at him in majesty and wonder and like the fucking sparkling eyes. And then whatchamacallit, and then like in the most recent opening, Deku has like this smirk because like he's not just like looking at him as a symbol he can't reach, he is reaching it because he's got One for All, and he's like using his full cowl ability, so he's like more on par with All Might.
Yeah, that's interesting. I can definitely see that. Like, that basically sums up like their relationship, like in season 1 and season 2.
Yeah, and the fact that Tomura is getting this like great arc, and the fact that like the series dives into like what makes a hero, and that was like part of like Stain's ideology, and it also is sort of diving into like what makes a great villain. And as I've said before many times, what makes Tomura doesn't quite realize it, but although he's starting to like make the dots that like all of his actions were just like, I'm just destroying shit I don't like, but then he realizes that like all of his goals need to be part of like proving a greater point. Like the great villains like have a thesis that their crimes like are supposed to teach people. It's like in like serial killer movies where like the serial killer like has these really complicated crimes, but it's all because they have like some sort of thematic point.
Yeah, it's like yeah, I could see that. I mean, you've made that point like numerous times before.
Oh yeah. Well, it's nice to see it finally like brought into like become part of the text of the actual series animated.
Yeah, it's interesting. I thought he was gonna go like anti conviction, like he was gonna be like the antithesis of Stain so much because he hated Stain that much.
Well, his conviction right now is that like it's like it all connects back to All Might, and he hates the fact that All Might is a symbol of peace and that everyone can like smile and be happy, and he wants to like create a world where they know that they can't smile, and the symbol of peace can't protect them, that they're not safe.
Yeah.
And his actions are going to start to like reflect that better as he like assembles it to like being a better villain. And then of course you've got good old All for One just looking in the shadows, and he's like, I'm going to make him into the next me.
Yeah. All for One is like not like the most interesting like right now for me. I feel like Tomura is like way more interesting at this, like after this episode. It just
just wait for it. Just wait for like the next season 3 is going to be hype. It has the best arc in it, and it's going to be like the shit. I cannot wait to see All for One when he like really makes the main stage and makes his debut, and it's going to be fucking awesome. But I mean, you could say he is less interesting than Tomura at this point, because like Tomura is finding his path of villainy, while All for One, already has his path defined.
Yeah, when
in one way you can almost, and it's also very interesting. This was a discussion for like later on once we get deeper into the series, when season 3 hits. That whatchamacallit, you could also compare their All Might and All for One for All, or All for One's teaching styles.
Their teaching styles, like compare them.
All for One is a little bit more hands off, and that like he likes Deku to like learn the lesson, or he likes Shigaraki to learn the lessons on his own. He's willing to support him if needed, but he gives his student more freedom. While All Might kind of like puts unrealistic expectations on Deku, like that scene where it's like, "I want you to become the new symbol in the sports festival," which was a lot to ask for him, given the fact that at that point, like he had to like mutilate his body to use the quirk.
Yeah, that was that was pretty intense. Like, that's an interesting point, actually. You know, the I mean, All Might's teaching methods were very harsh, true, but like, he was still there for Deku, like there emotionally, supportively. Yeah, it's it's a lot to ask of Deku, but he, at the same time, he 100% was willing to do it, just because he thought it would have helped develop him as a hero.
Yeah. And so they're both good father figures and teachers. Although it's interesting to see that, like, in some ways, that like All for One is slightly a little bit of a better teacher than All Might.
Oh, why do you say that?
Because like I think he sort of like is a little bit more hands off, and he lets the person find their own answers. Versus All Might, where it's just sort of like, here's my power, be like me, be the symbol of peace. I'm not going to tell you how to use it, or just pick up a bunch of trash. That'll help you. Oh wait, here's my fucking power. Good luck. Go destroy those robots.
I think it would heavily depend on like the kind of student. Like Tomoro is like, he's wrapped up in himself. Like he's completely obsessed with his own ideologies, and like his his want to kill off All Might, and like the hope that All Might gives. But Deku is like, he's so obsessed with All Might. He idolizes All Might. He thinks All Might's the most perfect person in the world. And I mean, All Might kind of has to use that in order to motivate Deku, I believe.
True, because like All Might also kind of like wants him to, Deku to find his own identity, as opposed to like doing everything to imitate him. Because like even initially, his costume is like this awful green frog monster that has the stupid, ear things that are supposed to emulate All Might's hair.
It kind of looked like a bunny rabbit costume.
Yeah, and now it's kind of like evolved to the world like he's got like this smile thing, but now it's like this cool like chin guard, which looks much more badass than it did before.
Yeah.
I don't know. Cool. I don't know if it serves any practical purpose, but it does look better. Like his second tier costume.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? It does.
And later on, like eventually, he like develops something else, like a modified fighting style to like give himself more of an identity outside of All Might's usual smashing, which you'll see soon enough. Maybe season 3. Yeah, so the episode was definitely a 9. I was really happy to see it animated, and
you gave it a 9, not a 10.
Yeah, I wanted a little bit more of a detailed Shigaraki face. But it was still well done. I still loved how it like balanced. Like at first it seems like, oh, we're just gonna go to the mall. Then it like completely flips and becomes much darker and sinister. It's like, hey, you're the UA student. And then he like puts his fingers on his neck and he's like, if I put all 5 fingers, then you crumble.
Yeah, and like how he was like, as Deku was like telling Shigaraki about why Stain was so popular, Shigaraki was like starting to choke him with just those 4 fingers.
That was a really great detail. I love that.
Yeah, that just intensified the scene so much more. I like that a lot.
Yeah, so like there's a little bit of me that's disappointed that like some of the artwork in the show didn't quite match like the manga with like the super detailed images. That image of Tomo Shigaraki's full face and the Shigaraki smile. But it was still a great adaptation, and it, still pretty much one of my favorite chapters in the entire series. And it gave it justice, even if there was a tiny little bit of filler at the end.
Oh.
It was a great way to end the season.
I remember now what I was gonna say too. Togashi, he's really great at like fleshing out characters like when he really wants to, isn't he? It was like,
Oh, you mean Togashi or Horikoshi? Togashi is Hunter x Hunter.
oh, sorry,
Horikoshi is
Hirokoshi. I mean, right? The author, mangaka.
yeah, of My Hero Academia.
I mean, he did the same thing. He did really flesh out Fire Ice Guy. Forget his
True.
name.
Yeah, he gave him a good backstory when, like, push came to shove, and Tomura obviously has to be the centerpiece because he's like going to be the main fucking villain, and it's amazing he's doing such a good job considering his gimmick is so stupid of just like I have hands on my face.
I am constantly face palming at everything.
Yeah, I am constantly face bombing. Although there was one image that wasn't in the manga where they showed him like looking at like the dead. It's implied that like the central hand he has over his face is his father's, and that maybe he killed his father by accident. So I like the image of him as a child where he's like looking at a bloody thing and he's like saying, Tulsa, our father. That was a nice little extra touch.
I saw that little detail of like that hand, the same hand, like sprawled bloody on the floor. It gives like a sense that there's more to his story, a lot more to his story that's not being revealed.
Yeah, like I'm hoping like eventually we get like a really detailed flashback about Tomura Shigaraki's like childhood, and that's like I think what'll determine whether or not My Hero Academia is a flash in the pan or if it's an all timer. Because like he needs a really good flashback, and all the details are kind of there. We just need like something to flesh them out.
And at the same time, though, like, you kind of wonder, like, to make a villain, like super great, like, I wonder, like, well, like, let's compare him to the Joker for a second. Like, nobody really knows, like, what the Joker's, like, backstory is, like, really, do they? Like how he became so insane and crazy. He's still like a fantastic villain though.
That's the closest they ever came was like the Killing Joke. That's like kind of accepted as like the possibility of his like origin story.
But even that is just like it's so up in the air. Like you don't even know if that's even real or not.
Well, that's interesting, but I don't know. I mean, shonen manga always sob stories are their bread and butter. You got to have a good sob story. So I want to hear Tomura Shigaraki's sob story. Because like in some ways, I almost wonder if like what I think is going to happen at the end of the series is I think Deku's like how he's going to surpass All Might is not so much that he like becomes more powerful than him, but he's going to like use his empathy to somehow reach Tomura Shigaraki and like reform him.
Maybe, yeah.
So like maybe there's like some evil or villain and like or maybe All for One becomes even more powerful and he's like out of control and somehow Deku reaches through to Tomura Shigaraki and then they team up to defeat him, or there's like a bomb and they like destroy the bomb. And I think that's how like Deku sort of like establishes himself as like a greater symbol of peace than All for One. Is that like he doesn't just beat up villains and keep people safe. You mean
One for All?
Or one, you're All for One, or no? God damn it!
All Might.
Yeah, All Might. All Might super. He's gonna be maybe better than All Might because he's gonna like make all the villains good guys. All right, so I think that about covers it. What do you think? It was a great episode. 10 for you, 9 for me, and great way to end the season. And probably a little lack. I might do a few more video essays. I have a few more things on My Hero Academia to say, but no more video blog reviews for us for a while for about whatchamacallit, which is a shame because it was fun like watching it every. It was a nice little treat every Saturday to have a new episode of My Hero Academia to look forward to.
Oh, you mean no more video blogs of My Hero, or do you mean just in general?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, no more video blogs of My Hero.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I feel like one by one, all our favorite series are kind of like, ending their seasons, going on hiatus. Yeah.
Well, who knows? Maybe we'll replace it with something else, or we'll watch Boruto. Probably not.
Fuck Boruto.
There is something like the Gantz guy's manga with the old guy is getting an anime adaptation that's like starting, I think, in a few weeks.
Oh shit! Holy
Yeah, I hope that's good. The manga ended, so I'm hoping it's like a really good anime adaptation that's like straight through the entire series.
Holy shit! Okay, that could possibly be interesting.
I hope it's good. I really want it to be good. But anyway, so I think that about covers it. What do you think we should chill?
That's a good question.
I'm tempted to like the Killing Joke, just because I think the Joker's kind of like lines up with Tomura Shigaraki, and the whole point about the Killing Joke is like it's about the Joker's thesis about that he wants to prove that anyone could go mad from one bad day and become a villain. I'm doing the Killer Joke unless you have something better.
That seems fine. I mean, you just look at that smile and you think, man, that's a fucking Joker smile, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a super villainous smile. All right, so go read The Killing Joke if you haven't already. I'll have a link down there, or buy something you actually do want. But The Killing Joke is Alan Moore's famous story from Batman that came to define the Joker and become one of the most influential comics of all time. Because it gets a little bit of a bad flack because of like the whole Batgirl getting like shot and then the nude photos of her to like torture her father. But, if you look past the maybe mean and regressive elements, it's still a great story about, like, the Joker's mad thesis in terms of, like, that he wants to prove that anyone can be driven mad by, like, one bad day, and that's all it takes.
Yeah, for sure. There's also an animated version of that, too, I believe, right?
Yeah, people hated that. That is even more controversial than the actual story.
Oh, is it? Really?
Yeah, people hate it, so we'll just link the comic.
Yeah, that was I wasn't a big fan of that, the animated one. Maybe I'd like the comic better, honestly.
They had the weird scene where like Batman has sex with Batgirl, and a lot of people were not happy with it.
Was that in The Killing Joke?
It was not in the original comic. They added it into the movie because the comic's kind of short, so they had to add 30 minutes of basically filler to like make it into like a feature length movie.
Okay.
Because like the comic story is only like maybe I don't know, like 45 minutes at best.
Okay.
So anyway, so go read The Killing Joke. All right, so I think that covers it. Like, comment, subscribe. Thank you for spending your time listening to us talk about My Hero Academia. And, have a good one. And remember, lobsters and tennis, but don't you grab it.
Lobsters made